Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today we're taking a look at this one right here, Jaws. A new title is being put out by Ravensburger, and it is exactly what it looks like. It is a board game version of the 1975 classic Jaws, put out by Universal Studios. So, it has 2 acts, which I usually don't like 2 acts in games because it requires some more setup halfway through the game, or about halfway through the game. But it is pretty closely following the script, I guess you could say, of the movie, while not being a scripted game. So let's get down to the table and we'll take a look at how it plays, and we'll come back with some final thoughts in just a few moments after that. Act 1 is played out in rounds, and each round has 3 phases that you go through. The first one is the event phase, where you're simply going to turn an event card over, and what the card says is where you put swimmers. So right now, you're going to put swimmers in the South Beach and 2 in the West Beach. So you'll take 3, and West Beach will get 2 swimmers, and then South Beach will get 1 swimmer, like so. But it says here, if the shark's swimmer track is 3 or lower, also place 1 at North, South, and East. So North Beach here, East Beach here, and another one down here at South Beach. Now, having the shark pick where he starts first, before that first event card is turned over, is very important. So make sure that you do that, because it'll give the shark an unfair advantage if he's able to choose after that event card starts. So make sure that that is taken care of. Next, you go to the shark phase, where the shark will track on his sheet here where he's going to move, how many swimmers he's going to eat, and so forth and so on. Now, the shark has 3 actions to do that with. He can move for 1, so if he's here in 1, he can move here to North Beach, eat a swimmer for 1, and then move to either 5, 6, or 1. Whenever you're moving, you cannot move diagonally, so he would not be able to go from North Beach over to 2, but he would be able to go to 1, 6, or 5 from North Beach. And then, of course, after he has recorded that he ate a swimmer at North Beach, he will remove that from there and then move his swimmer's eaten track up to 1. Now, the reason this is important is because this is actually a game ending, or rather an act ending scenario, where if the shark eats 9 swimmers, then the Act 1 will automatically end and you'll go to Act 2. Or if Brody, Quint, and Hooper are able to attach 2 barrels to the shark, then Act 1 will end and you'll go to Act 2 as well. So after the shark phase, then we go to the crew phase, where the crew will be able to do all of the things that they want to do as well. Each crew member can take up to 4 actions. They can go in any order that they want to, but once one person starts their turn, they must finish it before another person goes. So Hooper cannot take 2 actions, and then Quint take 2 actions, and then Hooper finish 2 actions. Now, depending on the crew member that you're playing, that will tell you what you can do during your turn. For example, Brody can use 1 action to do any of the following things. He can move 1 space, which he's moving on land. He can go from the mayor's office here over to North Beach, or he can go to the shop, or he can go here to the dock, or he can go to East Beach from the mayor's office for 1 action point. Or he can pick up 1 barrel. So if he moves over here for 1 action, he can then pick up a barrel and carry 1 barrel at a time, and he can go resupply the docks with that thing. But he would have to move for 1, pick up for another, move for a third, and then he could also then drop off this barrel at the dock there for a 4th action. He also has 2 special abilities that are down here. They both take an action to use. Binoculars will if he is standing at one of the 4 beach spaces, he can use binoculars. And if the shark is in the water at that beach, the shark has to then reveal himself where he is. He can also close a beach. Now, when you close a beach, you simply put the beach close sign on there. If an event card would add any number of swimmers to this beach, you simply don't add those swimmers to the beach that turn, flip it over, and then if another event card would add any number of swimmers to that beach, you would remove it. And then if a third event card would add any number of swimmers to the beach, then you would start adding it. If you are Quint, you can move one space in the Orca. You can rescue one swimmer. Then you can also pick up any or all barrels. Now the thing here is you can pick them up at a dock, or if you have, with your final ability here, launching a barrel into water will act as a, well, first of all, if he launches it into the water and the shark is there, then that barrel will get added to the shark's player board, and then if another one gets added, Act 1 is over. But if the shark isn't there, Quint can leave it in the water and it acts as a motion sensor. So if the shark ever comes through that water, he has to say motion sensor at South Beach was activated. But during his turn, he can also pick up barrels that he has placed earlier before if he wants to. So that's what Quint can do. Hooper is in a faster boat. He can actually move 2 spaces with one action rather than just one. He can also rescue one swimmer and pick up pick up any or all barrels that are in an area, not just at a dock, but also in the water. And then he can also give all barrels to Quint. So if Quint runs out of barrels, which is possible, and he has any barrels on his thing, he can give them to Quint if they're in the same area. And then he can also use his fish finder. Now the fish finder is a little bit more useful than just the binoculars, because if he uses the fish finder, for example here, if the shark is in that area, he has to reveal himself. But if he is adjacent to the area where Hooper is, he has to say that he's nearby. And then if he's not in an adjacent space or the space where Hooper is, he just simply says he's not nearby. All right, so that's a little bit more of a wider net with the fish finder than Brody's binoculars. So once all of the crew members have taken all of their turns, it goes back to another event phase. You flip an event card, and then a shark phase, and then another crew phase, and you continue doing that until one of those aforementioned conditions were met. Either the shark has eaten 9 swimmers, or he has 2 barrels attached to him. And then you move on to Act 2. As Act 2 begins, then the board is flipped over and these different tiles are placed out here to denote the Orca and the battle that's about to be fought between Quint, Brody, and Hooper and the shark. Now, depending on how well, as I said before, the shark did at eating swimmers, determines how powerful the shark and the crew are going to be in Act 2. What I have gone with here is that the shark made it to 6 swimmers eaten before 2 barrels were added to it. And so that means that the shark gets 7 ability cards, and then each of the crew members get 2 of their own gear that they're going to have with them, as well as 6 more crew cards that are split up among them however they would like it to be split up. So during the setup, everything is going to be done where the crew members are going to choose where they start on the boat. They're going to have all of these different things given to them. They take their targeting symbols and so forth and so on. Then we go into the first phase of Act 2, and that is resurface options, which we've already kind of done here, where the tokens are placed out here showing the crew members exactly where they're going to go. And then the shark is going to choose, using one of his tokens here, whether he's going to go to A, B, or C. And once he's done that, then the crew will prepare and choose where they're going to go. So the shark will choose this one right here, this place right here, wherever it might be. He doesn't have to tell anybody, of course. Then the crew is going to simply begin to, let's say Brody's going to come over here. He has 2 movement actions. Each one of these people have 2 movement actions, and then they're going to place their target symbol where they think they're going to come out here. So he's going to place his target symbol here. If you have a melee weapon denoted by a fist, then that can target a water area that is directly adjacent to where you are. So he can target this area with the bat, but he also has a pistol, which is a ranged weapon. He can target any place on the board. So he's going to go here and then target right there with his bat. He can also target there with his pistol as well. The Quint is going to, let's say, he's going to come back here to the back of the boat and target this with his machete. And then Brody here is going to go 1, 2, and then with his rifle, he will also target this area right here, just to be sure. So then, after the crew has prepared, the shark reveals where he has gone. So the shark actually went to the C area. So both of these cards are done away with and put into the discard pile, so that now this card is the only one that's available and shows exactly what's going to happen. So the card, first of all, shows the part of the boat he's going to attack. It gives him his defense or his evade ability, which is 2, and then it shows how many dice the shark is going to roll whenever he chooses to attack the boat. But before the shark is able to attack the boat, the crew gets to attack. These, since the shark isn't over here, are done away with and doesn't have any bearing on the game whatsoever, but these two guys are up here. This one, however, is where the shark did show up, so the shark token is placed out there, and the crew member gets to attack first. Quint is going to be targeting with his machete, and it says that he rolls 2 dice, and he gets an extra hit. So he's going to roll 2 dice, and wow, that's a lot. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits. The shark has a defense of 2, so that means that the shark here is going to take no less than 1, 2, 3 hits. And that's pretty nasty. And once that has been done and taken care of, the shark gets to attack. Now, he's going to attack with just 1 die, and he's looking to try to do either 1 or 3 damage. 1 will make the boat become damaged, or this section of the boat become damaged, which means that Quint's going to fall into the water. 3 means that this part of the boat is completely destroyed and removed from the board, which in which case Quint would also be falling into the water. So he rolls 1 die for the attack, and he doesn't get any damage at all, so nothing happens. He comes off the board, and we go back to another resurface options where these are flipped over like so. The tokens are put where they are supposed to go. And then where's C? Here it is. C is right here. And then after all that is put out, the shark again chooses where he's going to resurface. The crew then prepares, the crew attacks, the shark attacks, and this continues to go until one of 3 different options are reached. The first option is all 3 of the crew members are dead, which means that they've taken enough damage to come down to the X. Or the second option, the shark has taken 18 points of damage, which means that he or she is now dead and the game is over. The crew members have won. If the shark kills all the crew members, of course the shark wins. But another way is for the shark to destroy the entire orca. And if he does that, even if the crew members are still left alive, he will have won as well. So that's that for Jaws. Now, this game falls closely upon the heels, for me at least, on a game called Shark Island. Now, Shark Island was designed by a couple of good friends of mine, Richard Lanius and Pete Shirey. And they did a great job. That is a very fun game, but they didn't have the license. Pete is a huge shark fan, and shark movie fan, and shark everything fan. So it just kind of made sense for him to design a game like that. But this one is different. It does have the intellectual property of the actual movie, so it's using the names of the characters from the movie. It's using Amity Island for its setting and all of that other kind of stuff, whereas Shark Island was a little bit more generic. Still have the same vibe going on to it, but it was just more generic. This game differentiates itself, however. It's streamlined, I guess you could say, according, as compared to the other one. And I wouldn't say it's better, it's just different. But I will say that I do like this game a lot. I like the fact, now I said earlier that I usually don't like Act 1, Act 2 board games because it requires more setup about halfway through the game. I didn't mind it as much here because the setup was simple and it didn't take a lot of time. It wasn't cumbersome or anything like that, and it didn't break the continuity or the flow of the game at all. So that's a positive point. So with that having been said, let's get to my pros and cons. So my first pro is the fact that this game has 2 acts to it, and it makes sense for it to have 2 acts. Now, the reason it makes sense for me is because there's a definite chapter division, I guess you could say, within the game where you are going to, and it happened in the movie as well, where you find the shark and you've tagged it and you know where it is. It's setting off motion sensors, and now it's time to go battle the shark. And so that division made sense in this, whereas in other games that had the game divided up into 2 different acts, it didn't quite make sense. Another game that it made sense in was a Big Trouble in Little China board game, where you were powering up, leveling up your character, and then the second act was going to fight Lo Pan. So I usually don't like it. These are the 2 games that I've really kind of enjoyed that had this feeling to it, or this framework to it. And so it was a very cool thing, and it made sense, and it was thematic, so I liked it in this game. My second pro of the game is the actual gameplay. The mechanisms that they've involved are thematic. There is a high deductive logic feeling to Act 1, which makes sense because you don't know where the shark is, but you're having to kind of guess sometimes where they might be, and you're using some deductive logic, but you might also be using just a shot in the dark. Well, I think maybe he's over there, and hey, it worked out that that's where it was. So you get the idea, I think, where you have neat thematic and logical, I guess you could call it, mechanisms in this game, and they make for a very fun time, especially if you're a fan of the movie, because it does follow the vibe that the movie puts out. So I like that. I like the deductive part of Act 1, and I also like the dice chucking battle part of this Act 2. So the gameplay is great in my opinion. Another pro for the game for me was the fact that everybody had their own special abilities. They all had their own things that they could do that nobody else could do quite as good. For example, Brody can shut down the beaches, which really helps the team. Quint can launch those barrels into the water, but he doesn't have to be right where he is. He can actually launch them adjacent, which really helps the team carry or cover rather a large wide group of people. Hooper moves around really quickly, so he can get to parts of the island that take longer for the other characters. The shark has that hidden movement mechanism that he employs. Really enjoy that because it's a really cool cat and mouse type game at that point. So I like how each individual person plays differently, no matter if you're the shark or one of the crew members. Super duper. Now, as far as my cons are concerned, I only have 2 of them, but the first one has to do with the components. As you probably noticed, I didn't mention component quality in the pros section. Now, that's not to say that all of the components are bad. Some of the components are really nice. The boats and the meeples that are used for the crew members and the shark token, they're all decent quality. They're not blowing the doors off of anything. They're not awesome or anything like that, but they're good. They're good enough. But the other parts of the game, the tokens mainly, but also the cards are a little bit of a low quality as well. But the cardboard tokens, the printing that they used on them was a really, I guess, inexpensive printing job because I've only played this game maybe 3 times, and the parts of all of the different tokens are starting to wear off, especially the ones that are handled a lot, like the when the shark chooses where he's going to resurface in Act 2, those larger A, B, and C tokens are really wearing off badly. So there's that. The component quality was not all across the board wasn't good. It was low quality components, which is unfortunate because this is a really fun game, and I don't know that the components are going to stand up to how much you're going to want to play this game. My second pro of the game, and this is going to kind of rest heavily upon what kind of people you're playing with the game, but Act 2 seems to drag on, or could drag on a little bit and overstay its welcome, I think, because it does rely more heavily upon luck. So if the dice aren't rolling the way that either side wants them to, the battle could be prolonged. Now, it could go the other way, where one person or one group of people are just rolling heavily and hotly, and they're scoring hits and damage left and right, and it could go pretty quick at that point. But it depends on luck, and generally speaking, for its conclusion. So it could overstay its welcome, and that's why it's here. I have felt in one of the plays that I did that the second act kind of drug on longer than it should have. But it's just one of those things. It's not a huge deal for me because you're still very active in what you're doing. But at the same time, I know that some people will say, that just kind of lasted longer than I wanted it to. And really, that's about it for Jaws. I really did, even with the 2 cons that I mentioned, I really did enjoy the game. I had a great time with it. Played it with a couple of different groups of people, or kinds of people, and they all caught on very well. My son Aiden played, and he was able to play and actually contribute. So I think that it's a good game. Ages 12 and up might be a little bit high. My son Aiden is going to be turning 9 in a couple of months. So he was able to grasp this game with some help at the onset. But as the game drew on, we didn't have to help him. We just asked him what he wanted to do, and he would then do it. So I think it's great that way. And I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. I did enjoy it a lot. It gets my seal of approval. I really think that it's one, especially if you have that nostalgia factor going on with the movie. This is going to fit well with you. If you liked the movie, the vibe that it gave out, how it kind of had that 2 divisions of figuring out where the shark is, and then once you found it, going and battling the shark, this is exactly what this feels like. And so if you like the game, if you like the movie, you will probably like the game as well. And so 8 out of 10 from me. I'm going to get on out of here, but that is that. Thank you for joining me. I certainly appreciate it. We'll see you guys and gals on the flip side. Take care now.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.